Hi, I'm Meg.
And I'm David.
Welcome to The Average Vegans, a podcast to help you live an attainable vegan lifestyle. We're not the ripped influencer vegans you hear about in other podcasts. We're just some ordinary people living in the South, eating plants and loving animals.
And on this episode, we're going to be discussing Seaspiracy, the semi-new Netflix documentary.
What a dork.
I gotta say,
I
weird.
mean, it is new.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to talk about this documentary and also kind of about our oceans and sea life and all that kind of stuff. I want to know how many people that are listening actually watch this because it is very powerful. And created by the people that made Cowspiracy,
Right.
obviously, from the name. Duh.
A dur.
And it was so were so well done. Like, I'm highly impressed with both documentaries for sure.
Yeah. It's like I said before we started, like, you were talking about something that's a little fucked up, hard to watch.
Definitely is.
Bro.
But I feel like every vegan or plant-based or environmental or animal rights documentary at some point is hard to watch.
Has that shock factor, which, I mean, to be fair, and just quick spoiler alerts, we're going to talk about this thing in depth. So if you haven't seen it, it's worth seeing, honestly.
Yes.
If you don't want to see it, but you want to know what was about and some of the information, we'll have that here. But if you I want to see it, I want to know everything, and from that only, then probably not the best episode for you. But we don't want you to leave. But also, we don't want to ruin things for you if you haven't seen it yet, or you want to see it before you hear about it. But definitely spoilers.
Yeah, and come back if you do leave us right now to go watch it. Come back and listen. Let us know what you think.
For sure. One thing I kind of like about this one is it saved most of the messed up parts for the last 20 minutes.
There were some, one scene I can think of earlier that I had to look away a little bit.
Which one was that?
Where they were getting the first scene where they were corralling the dolphins.
Yeah.
There wasn't any gore in that, but
not
just
too much. There's a little bit of blood in there.
Scared and terrified and knowing what was happening to them. That was scary for me. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But even the last just a minute. Oh my Lord.
Right.
It was rough.
Bro. So let's kind of start into the beginning of it. Yeah, I think did you want to before we jump into really the meat of it, anything that you wanted to information you want to provide
about the documentary?
Yeah, I wasn't sure if there's anything in the intro you want to say before I jump into the meat of it.
Well, I gathered a little bit of information just to kind of give you guys, anyone who doesn't even know what we're talking about, because I'm sure there's somebody. So Seaspiracy was made up by the same team that made Cowspiracy. And it's all about sustainable fishing, and it talks about aquaculture. That's hard to say. The aquaculture industry, and then talks a lot about seafood and how it's tainted with slave labor, and that part of it just kind of threw me for a loop.
Yeah.
So when you think it's all about animals, there is a twist at some point where they do talk a little bit about human rights and things like that. There is a bit of controversy about some aspects of this documentary. We'll share the link to this article that I found about the controversies over this. Some people in the film think that they were misrepresented, that some of their quotes were taken out of context or twisted in a way. A lot of people will claim that in life, and it is true. I mean, who are we to know or to say?
Right.
But anyone who is saying that they're not the people that are on the sides of the animals. So let's just keep that in mind.
Yeah, and
the people that are complaining are the bad guys.
Right, and you're gonna get that with any documentary of like it wasn't exactly the numbers weren't exactly right, or
right.
Well, that's not really what I was saying. You're gonna get that in any documentary. It's also, to your point, it's also who's making the claim, right?
Exactly, and that kind of comes into play also as part of the whole documentary.
Yeah.
So I do want to mention that it was directed by Ali Tabrizi. He's a filmmaker from Kent. I do want to give him some credit because this was pretty amazing. And again, it's all about our oceans and the issues that we are experiencing because of the fishing industry. And it gets really in depth. It talks about a lot of things I wasn't expecting about. Like, I don't know, I kind of came into it with preconceived notions of what I thought we were going to talk about. And then it took a lot of different turns that was just fascinating. It was really...
I think it progressed really well. I mean, it starts out really talking about more like whales and well, okay. So I have my notes to kind of help.
You go.
Yeah. So, but it talks about more of the oceans and how important the oceans are. Aside from the I don't know if it was the director who was the main focus. I can't remember who was the main focus. I think it was the director who was the main character.
Yes, I guess he was.
I think it was him. I didn't catch the names. I'm really bad.
I know. I was just so consumed with the information. Right. I wasn't really paying attention to him.
But sorry. No, you're fine. So he starts out talking about how the ocean and sea life and many whales really fascinating growing up, and he gets into how important the ocean is, talking about how 80% of the Earth's life is in the ocean, which is crazy. But you got to realize how big the ocean is compared to how much it was like 2/3 something like that of the whole, maybe more than that. I think now I feel stupid. Most of the world is water. I can't remember the number. It's late. Leave me alone. But 80% of the life on Earth is actually in the ocean, and how much we use the ocean as far as our oxygen. That I knew there was a I knew the ocean made up a lot of our oxygen, but was it the phytoplankton makes up 85%. Yeah, it makes up 85% of the Earth's oxygen comes from the ocean, and it soaks up 4 times the CO2 than the Amazon rainforest. The ocean alone does this.
That's a stat that just alone blows my mind.
Yeah, and when the whales are the ones whales fertilize the phytoplankton that do all of this. So
yeah, and there was a shot in the episode where it showed, or in the film where they showed a dead whale, and when they looked at its stomach, it was all like fishing gear, like ropes and nets and stuff. And I was like, oh my God, because you could see it wrapped around everything in that poor little whale's tummy. Yeah, it was horrible.
Well, I mean, so much of the trash ends up in the ocean. There's 150 million tons of plastic. That gets broken down in the ocean.
Yeah, and I had never heard of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Have you heard of that?
Yeah,
I've never heard of that.
It's this giant island of trash that floats out because all the currents kind of come together and collect it all. And the thing is
so gross.
It's 1.6 million square kilometers. Wow, it's just like trash and plastic, and it's. I think it's 45 or 48%.
46. I have it written in my notes. 46% is fishing nets and fishing gear from commercial fishermen. Yep, that's crazy.
And the thing about that is we get so up in arms about plastic bags and straws, which are they're plastics. They are a problem. But
absolutely,
how much of that fishing equipment gets tangled up in our turtles' necks, and fish eat it, and the whales are eating it. Of course, without them, we end up damaging the phytoplankton, which is where we get most of our oxygen.
Exactly. Yeah, when they were interviewing I wrote a little note about this. The Plastic Pollution Coalition. They were interviewing one of the women that works for them, and they asked her about fishing equipment being a big contributor to pollution in the ocean, and No, it's microplastics. It's microplastics that's the biggest problems. And every time I would like press her on like fishing, she was just like denying and pushing it away and like argued with them, stopped the interview. It was like so dramatic.
Right.
And so obvious that you were hiding from the truth, ma'am. Like you're on camera. At least try to fake it. Just, geez, and so ridiculous.
Whenever those things would happen, you could, and happens a lot, especially in just standard animal agriculture, when there's groups who are, their whole, like, they're set up to actually protect the environment or wrangle in animal agriculture, and in this case, it's the ocean agriculture. You can look the money and like, oh, you're funded by it.
Yep.
Like
by the same company that does the dolphin safe stuff. It was the same company, and I was like, yeah, you always have to follow that money. That's it. Always.
Money talks and bullshit walks. You follow that money, you're gonna find out where everything's coming from. And you look, I mean, when you look at like the FDA when they put out like recommendations for what's healthy and how much protein you should get and where protein sources come from, you look at the people on the board and their funding comes from animal agriculture. So it's very much the same thing. So that's why I have a family member who would go, well, it's in the Heart Association, the American Heart Association's cookbook, or has a Heart Association sticker on it, so we know it's okay. And I'm like, you are aware all you got to do is have a certain fat to calorie percentage ratio and $5,000 and you can get a sticker? Mom, I can get the sticker. I can get them $5,000 and I get a sticker that will give me an official sticker that I say I'm heart safe. It's not worse. As I guess my
Even
mom
is heart safe.
Yeah, my mom was the one who put that out there. So and again, I wasn't, because my dad had a triple bypass and stents. So anyway,
right, exactly.
That's other rant.
There was another stat that it just blew me away. It said a garbage truck of plastic dumped into our oceans every minute. Like, just think about that.
Yeah,
guys.
That's where. But see, and that's it. That's where everything ends up. Everything ends up in the ocean. There's a comedian who was made some mistakes, and we don't talk about him anymore. But he threw something, like he was like walking through the city and threw some trash on the ground, and his buddy's like, "What are you doing, man?" He's like, "What?" He's like, "You're just throwing that out into the environment." He goes, "This isn't the environment. This is cancer. Like, where is the brown splash? This isn't the environment. If I throw that in a trash can, you know what's going to go into a truck or into a barge and dumped in the middle of the ocean, and then turtles are going to eat it. That's the environment."
Oh my gosh!
But
wow,
that's where it all ends up. Whether it's trash you throw away, and even if it's plastic, it'll end up getting broken down into the water table and end up back in the ocean.
Yeah, because they were talking about how it's not the things that everyone makes you want to focus on. It's not. It's almost like that don't look behind the curtain at the Wizard of Oz kind of thing. Right. It's like, focus on the straws and focus on not using plastic as much as possible. Don't look at commercial fishing. It's totes chill. It's fine. Oh, no probs. It just drove me crazy the whole time I was watching this. I was like, I hate being fooled, and so like for so long I lived my life so fooled, and it makes me mad.
Here's what okay, so there's two things interesting about that. So first off, straws make up 0.003% of the plastics in the ocean. I'm not saying everyone start using plastic straws, it's okay. It's not. Definitely reduce your usage. Right. Use reusable if you can. Right. I have plastic straws in the house, but they're reusable. They're thick straws that we wash and dishwash and reuse them. And the other thing about that is it's funny when we're told to use plastic straws, use reusable bags, do this, and this, and then the companies are the ones that are actually doing it. Mm-hmm. They're the ones, the fishing animal agriculture. The companies who make the plastic bottles and don't recycle them, because I watched this whole thing on plastics and like how we recycle like 0.5 of it actually gets recycled. It's insane how much gets recycled. So, and they pass that blame onto us, the consumer, to go, I suck.
It's our job.
So I need to do better because you won't, because it costs them money. That's why they won't. That's why they won't do it.
Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. So that's whenever someone's like, you should, when big organizations are trying to sell this a new type of reusable thing, or blame it like, okay, But why aren't you making straws that are made from material that breaks down within 5 years and becomes just soil? Why aren't you doing that? Why aren't you making,
Exactly.
I mean, paper straws aren't that great. They kind of suck. But like there's one made from corn.
I hate paper straws. Let's just be real. I like silicone ones and I like metal ones. I am not into a paper straw.
Yeah. So, but again, it's
trash.
Instead of a company changing their process, making the product easier to be recycled, or changing their product where it is sustainable, which would cost them money, they're going to blame us for it, make changes because they don't want to spend the money to actually make the overall change. The problem is still there, but it makes us feel bad for not doing any better.
You can totally cut this out if you want, but this makes me think of men telling women that they have to be responsible for birth control when really it should be every.
Yeah.
Just, it's not the only one who has to take responsibility for this environment. Women are not the only one who has responsibility for, reproductive health care.
Oh, for sure.
It feels like the same thing. It feels like, unless we're all going to do our part, then shut up.
Yeah, exactly. like we're all involved in this cycle. We're all involved in what's happening. Like I'm just as much at fault for using a plastic straw as you are for making them. So
exactly.
Maybe we should work together. Make it sustainable, and I'll pay an extra 3 cents. So now it's sustainable, and I'm not going to notice that anyway, or whatever.
And you're already charging me more for every freaking vegan food I order anyway.
Right?
So tack it on.
Right. So pulling it back to Seaspiracy.
One of the things that really, when they started bringing in the concepts of the dolphins, is when I really got very upset. This whole thought that dolphins are killed not because there's some renowned meat or something about them is so desirable. It's because they are competition for the fishermen because they eat too many fish. Are you fucking kidding me?
Here's what's fucked up. Okay, this got me. I went like, no, because I thought it was like a delicacy in other countries or whatever.
Me too.
Right? It's legit. It goes so much deeper than that. Here's what's crazy.
Like an ego.
It is competition, but it's competition because we overfish.
Yes.
So there's two pieces. So for every one sea mammal, honestly, because usually it's typically dolphins and whales that are captured for entertainment purposes. For every one that is captured for some sort of entertainment purpose at a SeaWorld or other aquariums, 12 are killed. So it's a 1 to 12 ratio of captured versus kill. And they're not killed for their meat. They're just slaughtered because we have overfished so much. We're having to kill off dolphins to make it where they can't eat them so we can.
Yes. And there are animals that are dying because we've taken so many of their fish away from them.
Yes.
Where they can't eat enough to sustain themselves. That is crazy talk.
Yeah, it's so what's crazy about that is the whole thing's crazy. What thing about that is, so was it like in the late 1800s, a single ship could go out and catch 1 to 2 tons a day. No, in an hour. It was in an hour. 1 to 2 tons of fish in an hour, which is plenty. Now it takes a week to catch the same amount. With an entire fleet of ships, right?
And that's just because we've taken so many away.
Yes.
That they cannot repopulate quick enough to sustain the demand of these fucking fishermen. Oh.
Yeah, within that, they're going to bycatch too.
Mm-hmm.
And then so much that we have so much that's and by bycatch is stuff that's caught when they don't mean to. So if they're fishing for tuna, they'll catch dolphins and other whales and sharks when you get into sharks, right?
Oh my God.
That was so brutal watching them just dumped into the ocean.
Oh, I had to fast forward a tiny bit. I was like, I can't.
So the thing about bycatch is 40% of the ocean life that's caught when in fishing expeditions, 40% is bycatch and it gets tossed back, and almost all of them die before they hit the water. They're already dead. So 40%, so only 60% of what's caught is actually used for consumption to some degree, right? 40% is just it's like just like the dolphins. You're just
Just waste.
you're fodder. And all I can thinking is like, and it's the same thing for land animal agriculture. It's like, how do you like do that? Be like, dumb shark, and just kick it over like stupid dolphin.
What? Yeah,
and just like punch it in the face. I'm like, what is going on? Like,
what's the mentality of having that job? It just like blows me away.
I can't even.
No, let's talk about the shark since you mentioned it. So there's a part where they talk about shark fin soup and how it's a delicacy for the, rich and elite, and how it actually has no health benefits. It tastes bland and boring. There's nothing great about it. It's just so fancy and rare that the people seek it. And the scene in that when they talk about this it's brutal because they literally just show the sharks being brutally cut, and it is awful. It is so awful. But it's, you have to see that. You have to face that reality because it's like, I already want to kill people that are super rich and do shit like that. Yeah. But now you're going to kill an animal for fun for some gas soup? Now I really want to beat you up.
They just really take them and just cut their fins off, and that's it. It's like
for what are you doing?
Just because tradition. And even the ones that are caught in bycatch. And what the thing that got me is they have all these fish that are bycatch, and then they reach over and grab the shark by its gill and start pulling it, and the shark is moving. It's like trying to breathe, and it can't because it needs water to do so. I'm like, God damn.
Oh, it's awful. It's so awful.
Well, even through all of that, with the bycatches, includes sharks, and a lot of the fish, primarily the fish that are used for consumption, whether it be for animal consumption, like given for like cat food, or whether it be for human consumption, whatever. All of those species, all of those animals in the species have been reduced by almost 90%. All of them, 80-90%, all of them. It is insane how fast it's getting reduced to the point where we're expected to have no fish in the ocean by 2048. That's my lifetime.
Yeah, absolutely. Was it the turtles that they showed that were like 7 out of 8 species are endangered or something like that? There's like one that's not.
Yes.
That's a shocking stat.
And that's primarily from the nets and all the fishing trash that's left behind.
Yeah. And it's funny because I always want to give my friends crap that they go fishing, but then I'm like, I'd rather yell at you if you went and had a bunch of sushi and contributed to collecting that commercialized fish. I just want to scream at anybody that I see to go.
You're contributing to the whole thing.
And they also I feel like when they hear vegans, vegetarians, health nut kind of people talk about the importance of plants and how meat and animal products can be harmful for your health, it never occurs to them that we're talking about fish. Yeah. That flows out of their head. How many times have we as vegans been asked, oh, but you eat fish, right?
Yeah.
No. Yeah. What? So there is that what is it called? Cognitive dissonance, where you're just they're not animals. You can't pet them. You can't cuddle. I mean, you could pet them, but you can't cuddle with the fish. It's not like an animal that I would bring in my house and hang out with. But I'm gonna eat them. It's totally fine. It's not a breathing, living creature. It's I don't understand how that isn't I just don't get that concept. Because when I started thinking about going vegan, I didn't just think about cows. It immediately occurred to me that that includes sea animals.
Correct. And I mean, talking about cognitive dissonance. I mean, I have friends and family who share look at this really funny video of a cow running around in a field kicking a ball on a farmed animal sanctuary, and I'm like, bro, you had steak last night.
Yeah.
How about you sit down?
Yeah.
Okay, and I guess it's that cognitive dissonance of because they're not having to do the killing first off, so they have that distance, And then they have been conditioned to think, well, I have to eat this way or to live. I'm like, no,
Yes.
I'm almost 10 years in, motherfucker. No, you good. Trust
No,
me.
you don't.
Yeah, I'm gonna come back to that this little bit here too in a little while because
Okay.
something caught me a little bit at the end. I was like, oh, you son of a bitch.
Oh no.
But one thing I found interesting regarding all of this was remember the Deep Sea Horizon oil spill?
Uh-huh. Oh yes.
Yeah. So one of the researchers in there was to talk about how there was it. I have it written down here. Where was it? Oh my God, where did it go? Because that Deep Sea Horizon incident killed less animals in a month than fishing does in a day. I was like, holy shit! Not only that, it said that the animals in the area actually flourished afterward because
there was no fishing.
Right.
That blew me away too. I was like, excuse me?
Yeah. It's like
what?
Well, it reminds me of like you've seen like the like if you don't know if you've seen the pictures, the animations of like if all humans like died out now, what would happen?
Mm-hmm.
And like how fast like the earth just goes, you didn't exist, and just like grows over everything. All the animals come back. Animals that are like on the brink of extinction, like 2 left, ends up like having millions within 5 minutes. It's like I see this. Whenever I watch these, I'm like, man, we suck.
Yes. Yes.
We are not good. Like,
absolutely. Like that whole, oh my God, that whole concept just, there were just so many stats and like things that they threw at me that I was just blown away by.
Yeah.
Like, as vegans, we know this stuff, but like these really fascinating stats to hear, and it really just drives home why we live the way we do, why we choose to eat the way we do,
right?
And why we're doing this podcast, because I want to spread this information to people, because again, a lot of people just think fish are just, or sea animals are just not as important as a land animal, and I just here we are to watch this show because wow.
When you think about it in the terms of sentience or in the terms of like pain, because they're animals, they feel pain, because a lot of people say like, well, fish don't feel pain, they don't have the same sensory. First off, dolphins are one of the few animals that can actually look in a mirror and recognize themselves. They've done experiments where, and this isn't true for all animals, this is not a perfect test, because there's certain animals like dogs and cats that require smell, but dolphins don't. So a dolphin, you actually would put a mark on the dolphin's, like the face, like a little white mark, a little white sticker, whatever, and then put up a mirror to the dolphin, and the dolphin will literally like look at it and recognize that that's them and try to like get the sticker off, and they'll check themselves in the mirror. They are sentient. They know, hey, that's me. And a dolphin has been shown to tell like when they're looking at another dolphin through transparent, like through glass, or if it's their own reflection. So it's not like, oh, hey, not like they're acting towards another dolphin. They can tell the difference. They act different depending on if they're looking at themselves or looking at something else. So they have that sentient. And all about with fish feeling pain. One of the researchers on there was talking about how fish, they're so sensitive to touch, but like they're so sensitive to things, they can feel like little changes and other things moving around them so delicately. That's why other fish they move like in a school, because they can like the smallest things they feel, and they have a central nervous system, they have a brain, they have everything that you basic need for an invertebrate to feel touch and feel pain. And there's some fish we actually know have shown signs of actually having friendships and recognizing each other and showing positivity when around to other certain fish they like. So they have emotions that we can relate to, and then we're just cutting their heads off when they're alive.
And we're so like we do talk about how we're very conditioned to think of cows and chickens as not real animals, not important animals, but it's such a different world when you talk about sea animals. It's like, I know I'm harping on it, but it just sounds so bizarre to me that it's almost like another level of just ignoring that they're living beings. Well, it's like one thing to ignore a a cow, but it's like they just act as if it's like, you know, I don't know, like I don't even know how to put it. It just blows my mind.
Here's the reason why even some people can say, okay, well, I'll only eat like cows and chickens and pigs and stuff like that, but fish still stays in their brain. We can kind of easily associate ourselves and see ourselves in those animals.
Okay.
But a fish you can't, because you live two different worlds. They don't breathe oxygen. You can't like touch them and cuddle up with them, to your point, right?
Right.
They don't look like people. They don't have, their eyes aren't right here with the nose like that. They don't have the same features we do. Where like a cow, a chicken, or a pig and things like that. They kind of do, right? You can see humanish features in a chicken because of the eyes and the nose, and they have a mouth and how they interact. But fish do not have the same interaction with us, and it's look the same.
That's so interesting.
The closest you're going to get is like a dolphin. Is probably the closest you're going to get. A whale,
which maybe is why it harmed my brain so much to see those scenes. Like that was, for some reason, that was like so harsh to me. And also because the reasoning behind hurting the dolphins was so fucking stupid.
Yeah, it's literally
not that any of it isn't stupid, but it was just like, they're your competition, you little baby.
And
look
at oh my god! And we get some, and again, it goes back to the how can you do that kind of mentality, because it gets me. It's not like it's a machine. They just like run a machine over the top of them. Now there's no dolphins. It's like they're just like, get out of the boats and go stabby stab. I'm like, jeez.
So let's talk about those fishermen. Let's talk about them, because this is also a stat that I thought was shocking. It is one of the most dangerous jobs on earth, and 24,000 fishermen die every year.
Yeah.
That blows me away.
Yeah.
And I wonder how many times that's an animal fighting back.
Yeah.
Like I'm just wondering, like,
they get
how
knocked
many
overboard,
times did they knock you over, or push you over or something to like fight back. But 24,000 fishermen die every year. That's a lot. That's insane to me.
Yeah. What's really crazy when they talked about, especially with the slave labor type stuff, is that sometimes the family's told they went overboard.
Mm-hmm.
And they may not have gone overboard, or they may have gone overboard through someone else's hand.
Yes.
Or they weren't alive when they went overboard. So yeah, basically a lot of people that are actually, killed and tortured and actually treated terrible out there. And when there's no one out there.
Right. And they're kept hostage on those ships because, like, how are you going to get off? Where are you going to go?
Yeah, like that one guy, he was like having drinks with, a guy who owned a fishing boat, and he convinced him, hey, would you come out? We'll do some fishing. You come out, and I really squishing the whole thing down in very like one sentence, but like, let's go out and do some fishing, right? But it's much more than that. And he said once they got in the boat, the guy just completely flipped, and he would like, if he was in a bad mood, he would just beat them with steel pipes. If they were like sick and they couldn't, they were sick and tired, he would like throw boiling water on them to make them get back to work, threaten them, put a gun to their head, threaten them with a gun, all kinds of stuff. He said
it's just another form of trafficking.
Yeah, they would store dead bodies in their freezer.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Oh God. So insane.
That's the thing we have to remember. Again, that goes back to land animal culture as well as the ocean agriculture is how much like not in some cases slave labor that's involved.
Mm-hmm.
Or just horrific conditions for those people. I mean, even we had COVID got spread a lot through meat plants because of the horrible conditions, and they're also undocumented workers that are employed there because they can cut costs by doing that.
Right.
And I'm not harping on undocumented workers. They're trying to feed their families like everybody else. I'm talking about the companies.
Absolutely, and they should be treated better and not be forced to be in a unsafe situation where COVID's running rampant.
Right, and so
absolutely ridiculous.
If you have an issue, if for some reason you don't have issue with the animal issue of it, you at least have some humanity in it.
Exactly. Yeah, like think about the human part of things. Like if you don't give a crap about the fish or the fish or the sea life, like think about the poor fishermen that are trafficked and forced to take these jobs. Like I wonder how many of those dolphins but they don't have a choice, which is like so terrifying. It's one thing to be kind of held hostage, but it's another thing to be forced to do awful things.
Not only that, usually when it happens, you get desensitized and you don't really think of it as like a living being anymore. And that has massive like emotional and mental ramifications on a person in their everyday life.
Yes.
So, there's so much more to it than we, as vegans, we want to go like, the fish is terrible and the dolphins is terrible. Horrific. It's absolutely horrific. And then we realize that like we're also like screwing each other up and screwing ourselves up just to put just put something on a plate that you don't need to eat anyway. There's so many levels of it. It's and I know like a comic. We're talking about like I think about bycatch, and I'm thinking about how non-vegans will give. I've heard this people say to me all the time, like field animals, rabbits and moles and stuff, die in the process of collecting your food too. Which is true. It's absolutely accurate. I'm well aware there are insects that get killed and that in the process. And of course, what I would say is like, well, they actually have to produce more food to feed the animals you eat more than what I eat. And so you're killing more animals in the process of getting your food plus more animals to get your food. So you're actually doing more damage than me. You're actually doing like 4 or 5 times more than what I'm doing. Granted, I don't like it, but I'm not going to just like starve to death either. So I'm having less impact. So, and you guys think about bycatch. If you see it and you're trying to talk about bycatch, and someone gives you a ration, like, well, mice are killed in the fields, or they collect your, they grow your soybeans or whatever. Like, yeah, they absolutely are, and it sucks and it's terrible, and wish it didn't happen. Yeah. But at the same time, more soy is used to feed the farmed animals that you consume, and they actually more die producing what you need. So, what are you trying to fuck up?
Oh gosh.
But kind of jumping around a little bit. But I don't want to say. I don't want to say. So think about the sharks, which I found interesting. And again, it's like a lot of this is like a butterfly flaps its wings, kind of thing, where like one thing leads to another, leads to another, right? So you're killing dolphins so you can have more things to fish, but you're fishing things. And you're also doing bycatch that are there because of adopting all this. But the sharks one, kind of going back to that, was so you're fucking up the food chain, right? Because the sharks are eating the larger fish, which keeps their population down, right? Because sharks don't care about tiny little fish. That's like popcorn, nothing, right? They want the big old fish. So they're eating the larger fish, right? Those larger fish eat. It's food chain. You eat what's smaller than you, right?
Right.
So, when you remove the sharks, and this is already starting to happen, where the sharks will get removed from the environment, the larger fish overgrow and eat those smaller fish, and then those larger fish end up running out of food. So then they die off, and then like the next, the third level is now the dominant, and it goes down, and then you have nothing in the ocean, and you've killed off all the ocean life. And again, it's like in 20 years, essentially.
Right.
20 years.
It's not like some crazy concept of like 200 years. Yeah. No, like we'll be here, guys. Like we have to fix this.
I guarantee virtually almost anyone who listens to this within your lifetime, there is a high risk of having an empty ocean. And understand.
Which then will lead to us dying.
Right. Because
let's just face that part of it.
Absolutely. If you kill the ocean, you kill us, because most of our oxygen comes from the ocean. CO2 is trapped in the ocean larger than any other the Amazon rainforest, which is the largest grove of trees, which we destroy the Amazon rainforest with acres and acres too. I mean, not only that, we got into was it called troweling? I think it was called trolling. Well, I had it written down. Trawlers. Yeah, so troweling, where they actually take the giant nets and drag them across the ocean floor.
Oh, yes.
Destroys. Basically, it's just a massive catch everything, wherever it is, wherever's caught you don't need, throw it back. It's dead anyway.
Like coral reefs that are really essential to the freaking ocean. Let's just scoop them up.
Everyone gets upset about the Amazon rainforest, right? The Amazon rainforest, 25 million acres are destroyed a year in the Amazon rainforest. Okay, 3.9 billion trawlers destroy the ocean and acres a year. 3.9 billion acres of the ocean is drug out and left barren a year. Versus 25 million acres in the rainforest, and people get upset with rainforest. Not that you shouldn't. You absolutely should.
Wow. That is just... Just let that soak in for a second. Just really, really think about it. I don't know. I just don't. I guess it is what you said. I can't relate, I guess, in a way to sea life where it's just so shut off from people's consciousness, and it's shocking. It's shocking, and it's also like people may understand, like, you know, the circle of life kind of thing, but again, it's like they're like, the ocean doesn't count. You just jump right over that.
Right.
It's not essential to the circle of life.
It's just a bunch of water. It's salt. You can't even drink it. What's the point, right?
Oh
you know.
my God. That's insane.
It is. It's just destruction,
insane.
And we don't, you know. And again, without it, we would die. Like if you move all the ocean life, the animal ocean life from it, once a lot of that feeds the plant life that's in there. The seaweeds, if it gets fed because of decaying, like when animals die naturally, they're gonna feed all the the plant life. And coral is fed by fish shit, essentially. Fish waste is what actually feeds coral. I was like, I didn't know. That's pretty cool. Gross, but cool. But you move the fish. That's the problem. Is fish are being things so overfished, the coral is dying off because there's no coral food, right?
Yep. Right. That's crazy to think about. But
just butterflies,
so many people like to go boating. So many people like to go scuba diving and snorkeling. You're going to have nothing to look at, you guys. Like literally there will be nothing for you to look at. You can't even go in the ocean if there's nothing in there. Like, oh,
well, you'd be dead. So you could go there anyway.
There'd be no filtering of it. It'd just be gross.
Well, the phytoplankton would die off because there's nothing feeding the phytoplankton, because the whales when they come up to feed, they fertilize the phytoplankton, so that's dead. So now we can't breathe. We got greenhouse gas all over the place. So basically we're boiling to death and we can't breathe. Sweet.
Oh my God.
Good times.
Sounds wonderful. I can't wait.
I live in the South United States, and it's like 102 degrees, 98% humidity. You don't want that everywhere.
No.
I lived my entire life and I hate it. You don't want this heat, and that's what it turned into.
Yes.
It's not good. Don't do it. But a lot of people talk about, well, what about like sustainable fishing? And I think what's funny is that there's no such thing.
Yeah, the dolphin safe tuna is not really. What did the guy say? He said, basically they asked him like a few different ways, and he finally was like, there's no that it's dolphin safe.
Yes.
He's like, but then they questioned him again. He goes, no, there is a way to guarantee it. And they were like, you just said there wasn't. No, there is. And it's like, sir.
Yes, it got so weird because he goes, they're like, because it was the guy who actually, there's the company who hands out that little dolphin safe sticker. It's like Earthbound or some company, Earth Watch. Earth Island. Yes. Perfect. Yes. Thank you. And they were talking about, he goes, well, how do you know, like, what do you do? And he goes, well, they have records, and then we have people on board who monitor. And they're like, oh, somebody always on board. They're like, no. I'm like, well, then how do you know? And he goes, well, we don't know. Well, how can you guarantee? Well, you can't. He goes, well, it's like life. You can't guarantee everything, so we can't guarantee. It's like, so okay, so you can't guarantee that it's not safe. Then how would you get the sticker? Well, because we know it's sustainable. How do you know it's sustainable? Well, from records. Well, but you can't trust the records. No, because our people are sometimes bribed. He even said, like, our people can be bribed, which happens a lot.
Yes, he did. The boats, like the boat people, he said they can be bribed. Like, so casually.
I'm like, dude, did you know you were being recorded, bro?
Right.
Because he's like, our people can be bribed. They're hardly ever there, and we just take their word for it. So you can't guarantee it. I can guarantee it because it's sustainable.
And he's one of the people that is listed in that controversial article.
Yeah.
Because he's coming back and saying, oh, I never said those things. What?
Like, it's in one shot, dude. I mean,
we can see you.
Believe what you see, man. What's up? Yeah. So that whole thing was crazy. And there's no sustainable, because then what does sustainable mean? How do you do it sustainably? Because if you're going to use nets, you're going to catch things you don't want to catch. So that's not sustainable. And then we're already overfished. So it was one guy, he went, I wasn't a bank. I can't remember what he was like head of like ocean agriculture for England or London or something like that.
Oh yeah.
But he asked him, he just asked a plain question to the guy. He's like, what does sustainability mean? And the guy goes, sustainability would mean, like, let's say you put 200 $200, euros, whatever you said, into an account, and then you saved on that account, and you made money in interest. So you made $20 on that. You put $200 in, you made $20. You take the 20 out, you leave the 200 in. And every time you make money on that, you take out your interest, but you leave the principal. That's sustainable because it's going to be constantly making you money on that. So, and he goes, okay, well, but how do you do sustainability from an ocean standpoint? And there's no answer.
Yeah.
With the director and the main guy in it was saying, if you're already already drawing on your principal,
exactly,
there's nothing to pull your interest from. So you're not sustainable. So how is that being sustainable? And there's no answer because we've already overfished it.
That's insane. That's insane. I just love it. Same thing in Cowspiracy and Seaspiracy. You see them interview people that like totally on their side, just here for a little fun chat, educational. And then they just casually slip in questions that put them on the spot. And it is one of my favorite things to see them squirming. I don't have an answer for that. I don't know what you're doing.
Oh, they start double talking. Oh no, you totally can do that. Well, how? Well, you can't. You can't really do it, but you can do it. Like, okay, wait.
Oh my God, it happens so many times in this documentary. You're gonna love that.
And then, so when it comes to sustainability, the people talk about what about especially factory farming, like the fish farms, and like, well, there you go. Then we're not dragging nets. We're not we're not catching dolphins and sharks and turtles and stuff in nets. Wasn't that better? That's what a lot of people would say.
No.
Well, and it's not because one, there's so much disease and there's mites and I know this. Fish get chlamydia. That was new to me.
Yeah, I was like, why did I forget that?
I was like, what?
What?
That's a fish.
Like what?
Yeah, I totally.
I wonder if people have you ever. Can you eat a fish with chlamydia and then you get chlamydia?
I don't know how that works. It's kind of like the other day I found out that there's actually in I guess it's in southern Florida. There's actually a problem with monkeys with herpes.
Oh yes.
You're like this straight up thing. And apparently if they bite or scratch you, you're done. Like you're a headline. You're out. I was like, wait, what? There's like a herpes? Because apparently they took some rhesus monkeys and put them on an island and didn't realize that monkeys can swim. So the monkeys escaped the island and they all had herpes and they just mass populated this area in Florida. So then you can get monkey herpes.
Florida's weird, okay?
That's true. Florida is really just in
it teaches you to survive. It's like being in Australia in a way. Like when it gets too cold and the iguanas freeze and fall out of trees like they did over the winter, which is just one of my favorite concepts in the world. They're fine. They're chill. And it just is like, what? How just nature's so weird that your body can freeze and then unfreeze and be fine. Like, how does that? I can't do that.
I don't want to try. I don't want to find out if I can.
I don't want to.
What I wondered was is it a different type of chlamydia? Like, are there different types?
Right.
Maybe this is like a fish one, or maybe it's a term like coronavirus is actually not COVID-19. It's actually a type of virus that has certain characteristics. Maybe that's what it is.
I don't know. That was such a crazy concept, though. But
the thing, if Florida is so heavy, it actually damages the ecosystem where those hatcheries and those fish farms are out in the middle of these little ocean areas. And only that was 40%. I think it was 40%, something around that. 40% of the fish that are in there end up dying anyway and can't be used. So it's only back to the 40-60 thing where 60 is actually usable.
Which seems pointless.
Here's what's even more pointless. So they looked at their feed. What do they feed these factory farmed fish, right? In these tanks in the middle of the ocean. Well, often not in the middle of the ocean, but they're offshore, but in these areas. They feed them this ground up fish meal and fish oil combo, right? Because fish eat other fish. They're carnivores, what they do.
Right.
So they feed them this meal that's made of fish. That was fish through catching fish with nets. So literally, if you think you're doing farmed fish is better than ones that are caught wild that do damage, you're doing twice as much damage.
Yep.
Because not only are you feeding
You're
into
killing
you're feeding into a slave labor into the actual farmed industry. You're feeding into the slave labor that's in the actual wild caught industry. I'm gonna call it that because I'm not sure what else to use. Then you're actually you're contributing to the bycatch. Because what's caught within that to get the bycatch that gets killed off is using to feed the farmed fish that you think you're doing better with.
Oh my God.
It's like just stop. Like what? You're trying to. It's like you're trying to justify something that you don't need to justify. It's like, okay, well, obviously jumping off a 30-story building would be stupid. Like we're not going to do that.
But 10.
But 10 or 15. I mean, of course that's better. Like, no, you're still gonna go splat. Like you're not doing any better.
That's a great analogy.
It's more like you're on the 10 and then you run to the 15 and jump off. It's like, well, you think you're better because you started on the 10, but you did jump. You might as well jumped off the 25 because you just extra'd it. Like, why? What's the point?
Yeah, that's so crazy as a concept because like. When people think, oh, I'm just going to eat the fish that's not from the ocean that they factory farm want to call. But then like it never ever occurs to them what they're feeding those fish. Like that is just a little tidbit of info that you just don't think about, like that's crazy to think that you think you're doing something better, but in the end, you're really killing 2 fish for the price of 1. And it's just like, that doesn't make any fucking sense at all.
Yeah.
That's so like ass backwards. Like it just like,
oh yeah.
You're going to be very frustrated watching this, just as you are with like every vegan or animal based movie. It's just very much frustrating because you're seeing the destruction of the planet, the killing of animals that is just so unnecessary, absolutely unnecessary.
Oh yeah, I think if you're already plant based, it kind of gives you a little bit more. I'm gonna say I've advocated multiple times: educate yourself, have the information readily available. When someone actually is curious or kind of challenges you, you have the information to provide them. So realize you know what you're talking about. They should either listen to you or leave you the fuck alone. It's good for that. If you have family members who are like weary or curious, it's definitely something good to watch for that. So I want to.
This would be good for any friend who's pescatarian too. Yeah. Be like, I know you think you're doing a great thing here, but just watch this.
Well, it's like my ex. When we met, she would only eat like chicken. That's all she would eat. She's like, I only eat chicken. That's all I eat. I only no animal. Which is like, okay, whatever. And we watched what did we watch? It wasn't Cowspiracy. It was like What the Health, or it was one of those. But it gets into like poultry and why that's not any better. And then she was like, okay, I'm out. I'm done. Not doing it. She cut off like the next day. She's like, I watched that and I'm like, I didn't realize like, how it's like it's not any better. Far as not better for the environment. It's not better for them. It's not better for me. It's just crap. I was like, yeah, I told you.
Yeah, and sometimes it just takes a movie to change someone's mind, like if you have a friend who thinks they're doing super great by just eating, seafood and fish, I mean, just show them what's in their fish, what it's doing to the environment as a whole, and, you may change someone's mind. This could be very, earth-shattering for some people that are just like completely blind to this kind of concepts.
Yeah, and that thing about it is too. When it gets offered in a very factual way with visuals, it kind of has a different impact, I think. So, want to touch on because there's part of this I want to get into a little bit. The more of the last little bit of the of the thing. Unless there was something else we want to get into.
No, we can go on to the last part.
So the last little bit, and there's also the conclusion. There was an obvious conclusion at the end we'll get to, but it was the more. It was the time. It was one where I had to cover the screen. I'm like, no, not doing it. And essentially, I'm not going to get detailed because I don't want to. I know nobody listens. Right. You don't want to. Nobody listens to me wants to get detailed on it. But there's I don't know the type of dolphin that it was. I don't know. I can't remember. I don't know what type of dolphin it was. Whether I didn't want to look, so I don't remember. And I was trying to block most of it out because it was too much. But essentially, these boats corral them in. get near the shore, and a bunch of just men just screaming around the ocean, grab by the tails, yank them in, and then alive, hack them up alive. That's I'm not gonna get any more detail than that, but it's
brutal.
Very upsetting. It's very like if seeing that in a film, if it bothers you to the point where you can just look away and kind of block it out until it's over, you're fine because it's very short. It's like 3 minutes. It's not very.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the most. Everything else in the film was like, look, a dead shark. That's pretty sad, which it was. And here's a fish that and now is not breathing anymore. This was probably the brutal part. This was there's actual things getting cut open and stuff like that. So it's terrible. I just couldn't. I was just like, okay, nope. Still see red. Still see red.
Yes. Yes. So much red.
Yeah. And then at one point, there's a guy with his son on his hip, and he walks over and he touches them and like, hey, look what we just did. Like, Jesus.
That's disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah. That part of it was very rough.
Very.
And I've talked about my husband a lot on the podcast about how he is, very open to the vegan food I eat. He understands everything that I believe in. He just, doesn't always follow a vegan diet because that's just not what he's interested in. But he walked in and I had this documentary pause with like 30 minutes left. And he's like, what are you watching? So I gave him kind of a little synopsis and he goes, oh, I don't want to watch anymore right now. I want to watch it myself. He's like, this is great. This is so fascinating. He's like, if you kill all the animals in the ocean, we're going to die too. And I was like, look at you, motherfucker.
I'm saying, I want to go like, and also the animals in the land.
Yes, that too. I was just like, excuse me, how do you know these things? Look at you. He was so into it. He doesn't like seafood at all. So this is easy. This is like an easy thing for him to jump on. And I'm like, well, maybe once you get this whole concept of like fish and seafood in your mind, it'll just, continue on. But it was just like so cute to see him get excited about watching this. And I'm like, see that little bit right there?
It's a little twinkle in the eye.
A little something there. Yeah. It's
you mark
a slow
my words.
process, but
mark my words. Here's my prediction. And I predict in about a year, maybe 2 years, he'll be at least vegetarian.
Oh yeah. I
Full
think
on,
so
like
too.
100% in home and outdoor, outside the house. He will straight up. I think cheese is gonna be hard for him.
Yeah, but he loves the Impossible Burgers, loves Beyond.
Yeah.
I don't think he has no problems with that whatsoever. So yeah, I could see that happening.
I think vegetarian. He'll be vegetarian within. I think a year. I think 2 at the most, but I think a year he'll be like, you know what? Let's just cut it out. I'm good.
Yeah. I mean, I never buy meat. If he wants it, he has to go get his damn self.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm not doing it.
That's my rule with my ex.
Yeah.
And she was like, because the first time like we just started living together, and she was I never talked about this on the podcast, but now I can.
Yeah, now you can.
When we first started living together, she wanted something. She wanted to make something that had cheese in it, and she was like, "Can you?" And she wanted to go. She was like, "Let's go get it." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And she was looking funny. I was like, "You're on your own." Like,
yeah.
Like if you, like we can go to the store and I'll get your broccoli and I'll get your bell peppers and I'll buy your groceries. I don't care. But if it's got an animal product in it, that's your money.
Yep, not mine.
She was like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, no, I have no," because she was a student. And I never had an issue with it. Honestly, it didn't bother me.
Right.
But I was like, no, if it came down to the animal product, like that's on you, that ain't on me.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I think
I'm just so proud of him for like caring about this subject. I was just like, excuse me, like he wouldn't let me press play until he left the room.
That's awesome.
Like that's so adorable. See, if it makes a little difference with my husband, you just have to show it to those, that friend who's a little bit on the edge and just. I mean, if they can get the concept of the importance of the oceans, I just feel like
it can be a process. Sometimes it's planting seeds, just putting those little seeds in there, let them grow on their own. What got me with that kind of going back to the whole whaling thing, that again, I don't want to talk about what actually happened because fuck me. He actually showed his spear that he would use for it. It was crazy. But he was interviewing this guy, and it was nonchalant about it. And he made some interesting points. Okay. His thing was, well, where you're from, people are going to slaughter 2,000 chickens. Where I'm going to kill one whale. Well,
I
and the meat's
remember
the same.
this.
So which is worse? I kill one thing, and you kill like I think he said. Well, I say it was like 200. Let's say 200. Because I don't think 2,000 was too
Yeah.
much. So you kill 200 versus one. He's like, yeah, I understand that you may not like it, but I think I'm doing better because I'm not doing. Of course, it's and but then he says like, he goes, but they both have lives. The life is one for one. And then he also says, he goes, so if you're going to tell me that I shouldn't do this, I should eat something else, then it's not any better. Well, he goes, but of course you can say like, well, I don't eat that anyway. I should just eat vegetables and fruit. He goes, well, then you'd have a point. And then he just keeps on going. And then he says
like,
it again.
Sir, you're so close to it. Like
he does, but he says it again.
Getting it.
He says it's 1-to-1. So he goes, if you want to argue that we don't have to have this at all to eat, we could eat other things than the animals. He goes, then you'd be right. And I'm screaming, going, You're talking
right
your own self out of it. You're literally making a point, and you're talking your own self out of your point, and then making your point again.
Yes.
It's
But he
the
made
point
me
of the whole
mad
thing.
because when he said that thing, he's like, if I kill one whale and you kill 200 chickens, he's like, you're welcome. And I'm like, oh, sir.
Thanks, man.
I'll punch you.
Thank you for your service. I appreciate your help. Like,
It's like, fuck you. That made me so mad. I
yeah,
don't know
it was
why.
like, dude, it's not like you're like knocking them out first either. It's not like you got a club of smack and then you're like going to town. Like, it's like they're like, we're gonna eat some. It's like the dolphins. I think the dolphins were. Was it a whale or a dolphin?
I think it was a whale.
It was a small whale. Anyway, it's like small whale, but they were like, I was like, we're having fun today. Look, boats, and they're just drug out of the water and hacked up. It's like, bro, like, fuck. Anyway, it's just so much. Anyway, it's part of that's gonna stick in my head because I looked at the screen when I shouldn't have.
Yes, yes.
But that's what got me is that he literally mentioned being plant-based would be better. You're right, but I'm not going to do that.
Yes.
Even though you're right. I was like, what the heck? And so, and that's kind of the crescendo, I guess, of the whole thing of like, because the director, the guy in it, I can't remember his name. He had the top, but if you probably look up and tell me what his name was, but
I'm trying to see. Ali.
Yeah, Ali. So Ali was talking about how like through the whole thing, he was trying to figure out how to be more sustainable. He got he was environmentalist, so he would like pick up all the plastic on the ocean and try to use reusable cutlery when he was out, and straws and stuff. And then when he was choosing fish, he would choose sustainable fish, stuff like this.
Mm-hmm.
And then he talked about how near the end, how it made him realize like the only sustainable way is to just not consume them.
Right.
Don't eat them. You can't. First off, you can't do anything. You can't kill something humanely. That's not something that's going to happen.
Right. Exactly.
So, and we know fish, whales, dolphins, they all feel pain. So and sharks. So you can't kill them humanely. They're going to suffer and die and suffocate the entire time because they're essentially drowning in air.
Right. Exactly.
Right. So they're going to suffocate through the whole thing. So you can't kill them humanely, which there's no such thing. And then you can't do sustainable because we know sustainability is bullshit. So there's no sustainability. Right. There's no way to do it humanely. Just don't eat them.
Simple. Lisa,
leaning back in my chair, like there you go, and stop the recording. That's it.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, they asked Dr. Michael Greger was in there, and they asked him and they asked, he goes, well, what would I be missing out on? Fuck, he's talking, from a dietary standpoint.
Oh, yes.
If you stop eating fish, what is something you miss out on?
Is this where there was like the funny condescending answer where he was like, heavy metals?
Yes. I love Dr. Michael Greger. If you ever get a chance,
awesome.
Seriously, anybody, me especially, if you get a chance, look up like a talk of his on, I'm sure it's all over YouTube. Not his own videos. He has his own videos. His videos are really good, but I've seen him talk in person. He's nerdy funny.
Right.
Like,
I love it.
He says a joke and then he stops like, and you get it? You know what I'm saying?
and he says it so like dry.
Yeah.
Like, he's not.
he's like, what am I missing out on? He goes, well, I mean, do you mean like the heavy metals and the and plastics and the mercury? Is that what you mean? Because that's what you're missing out on.
Like he's listing nutrients and vitamins.
Right.
Oh, it was beautifully done.
Because you're not missing out on the protein, because there's better protein sources that are more bioavailable. Exactly. Here's what you miss. You miss out on the cholesterol, which you don't need. I actually had it here. So the fish contain heavy metals, dioxins, plastic compounds, I had to put this down because I was going to forget it.
Good luck.
Hexachlorobenzene and PCBs.
Very good.
And PCBs,
Yeah.
right? So basically plastics and toxins, because everything, chemicals, runoffs from factory farms, all that ends up in the ocean, ends up flooding the ocean, ends up inside the fish, whether it be for them having the water going to them because of the contaminants, or them eating the thing and it gets absorbed into their flesh. That's what you're consuming.
Oh, God.
And
just because you don't see the plastic floating in its flesh doesn't mean it's not in there.
Right.
Like, let's just make that very clear. Like,
it's not. Yeah.
There's shit in the fish that you don't see.
Not to mention the dyes and things that are put into them to make them look a certain color that makes it where you want it.
That was so gross.
You know that?
I know that, but it's like I just don't think about it because I don't think about fish. So I was like, oh crap, I forgot about that.
Yeah, fish flesh is gray. It's not pink and red and stuff. Like we add that color because we associate gray as bad, as rotten, and we won't eat it. So you make it pink and red, and we're like, oh yay, fresh, and we eat it.
Healthy.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Which looks like your own flesh, healthy flesh.
Yeah, right.
We're such gross people.
But most people say that you need, and this is what I love, and most people say you need to eat fish for the omega-3 fatty acids.
Oh, this was great.
Right. And so, but the fish don't produce omega-3 fatty acids. They eat algae, people will say, that produce those fatty acids, and they consume them. That's how they get it themselves. So when they're taking the fish and like squeezing the fatty acids out of them to make your little fish pills and stuff, that came from algae.
Mm-hmm.
So you can just eat algae, and then so you can bypass, and there's some algae that have no flavor to them. You can get a little pill form and all kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
You can put them on your food; it's delicious. You can bypass that middleman, the middle fish, and avoid all of the dioxins, all of the mercury, all the heavy metals, all the plastics. And also avoid the cholesterol, anything you don't need, and get the omega-3 fatty acids. There's other ways to get them, like walnuts and hemp seeds and nut butters. All these things have different, avocados, I think too, all had different levels of omega-3 and omega-6. Omega-3 is usually harder to get because they're not found in those. But usually any type of sea life or anything goes into the ocean, you get iodine in your omega-3s that way and stuff like that. So. But yeah, it's just you're cutting, and it's like why do vegans take a B12 supplement? Because we don't eat things that are covered in dirt anymore, and because of that, we have to take a B12 supplement because we wash everything that we consume. And if you're a meat eater, the B12 supplement goes to the cow, and you eat the cow. We're just taking the supplement without the cow. Magic. Da-da-da-da.
Oh my gosh. I have nothing else to add because this was just like
I talk so much. I'm sorry.
It is so fascinating. Like I loved Cowspiracy, but this Seaspiracy, I might like it a little bit more, just because they talked about a lot of aspects of this fishing industry that I think people just are not aware of, and they really exposed some very shocking practices. You know, we know about the nets, we know about that stuff, but like the killing of dolphins because they're a competition, that's like not something people know about. And I feel like that's could be a big contribution to people switching the way that they eat. So I just encourage everybody to share this documentary with all of your friends, but especially someone who's a little curious. Somebody who's also maybe obsessed with seafood and fish. Like everybody has a friend who is obsessed with that kind of stuff. And you can have vegan sushi that's delicious, FYI.
Whoa. There's a place near here. I'm sorry, I gotta do this again. I gotta bring this up because I know you're going to spiel, but this is pointed. This is important. So there's a place near here, Green Sprout. I think it was Green Sprouts.
Yes.
And I ordered. I was kind of getting towards more plant-based. I was eating it somewhat more because a friend of mine was. So we went to the Green Sprout, and I ordered like the seafood platter, right? It was like scallops and like 3 types of fish, quotes fish,
Right.
And like just different like shrimps and scrimps and stuff. So we called them growing up with scrimps anyway. But I had these different like like faux seafood, whatever, right? So
Right.
I ordered it because I was like, let's see what you can do.
Yeah.
And I got it, and I got upset.
Because you thought it was
I
real.
thought it was real, and I called them over. And I'm like, "What is this?" And they're like, "It's it's vegetables." And like, no. I don't want the fish. I want like the fake stuff, whatever. I can't remember how I put it. And they're like, "Oh," and like, they could tell I was upset. Like, I am mad. You just pulled one over on me.
Right, right.
And keep in mind, I wasn't vegan yet. I actually still
You were
eat,
just.
I still eat fish every now and then. At the time, and I thought it was legit. I thought I was eating real shrimp, real fish, real scallops, real everything. And they had to promise me, like, no, everything in here is vegan. Like, bro, take it down, calm down, dude. Like, but yeah. So anyway, yeah, you can absolutely you can get something that is dead ringer creepy close.
Yes, like when I had oh, what was that restaurant we went to? It's closed down. Viva La Vegan. Oh, if you're an Atlanta person, RIP to that amazing restaurant.
Oh yeah.
They had a shrimp po' boy. Oh man, was that freaking thing amazing. But the shrimp looks so authentic that again I was like, are you sure? Because they're like pink and white and they look like legit. And I'm like, this is freaking
It's a sea vegetable.
And they have almost the same texture too. It's like that is mind blowing. How do you make that? That's just crazy. It's
like a sea vegetable. It's really crazy. They
is.
actually had to explain to me because they had to promise me, like, no, it's a sea vegetable. No, we promise. Oh my God, you're about to just go ballistic in here. I'm like, yeah, I'm upset. But anyway, yeah, you can definitely find options, and they're creepy. There's a place, V-Green. We'll have to get sushi when you're here.
Yes.
A few months. V-Green, they have sushi, and it's like I almost called them once. I thought because it gets so creepy. Anyway.
Well, then there's Cafe Sunflower that has scallops made from king oyster or king mushrooms that are so good. I have replicated them at home. Like you can definitely make a vegan alternative. So maybe we should do a whole episode on like vegan seafood and different options that you can have, and we can experiment with some stuff. You guys let us know what you think, if that's an idea.
I'm gonna do it because I can just eat food, but yes.
Okay. That's all you have to tell David.
I think I've...
All right. So let's close it off. We want to hear from you guys. We want to know if you've watched this documentary, what you're thinking about it. So you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, and anywhere else you get your your podcast picks. I'm messed up. Make sure to leave us a review, pretty please, and recommend us to your friends, family, coworkers, strangers, the delivery driver. Of course, follow us on Instagram and Facebook at The Average Vegans, and email us any ideas, anything you want to talk about at theaveragevegans@gmail.com. You can find show notes, links, and all that stuff on our website, theaveragevegans.com. And again, we want to hear from you guys. Let us know what you think about Seaspiracy.
Yes, please.
And that is it for this week.
All right. Well, until next time. Bye, guys.
Bye.